book of Genesis. Open your Bibles to the book of Genesis. The book of Genesis, the 37th chapter. The book of Genesis, the 37th chapter. Genesis, the 37th chapter, the 3rd to the 5th verse. Genesis, the 37th chapter, the 3rd to the 5th verse. And from there we'll move down to the 23rd verse, the 23rd through the 24th verse. Genesis 37, verses 3 and 5. Then we'll move down to the 23rd and the 24th verse. When you have it, respond by looking up at me. We'll be reading in unison in concert together from the King James Version. Genesis, the 37th chapter, the 3rd to the 5th verse. Let us read. Now Israel loved Joseph more than all his children,
because he was the son of his old age, and he made him a coat of many colors. And when he was gripped, they hated him and could not speak peaceably. And Joseph dreamed a dream, and he told it to his brethren, and they hated him yet the more.
They could not speak peaceable unto him, and they hated him even the more, all because he dreamed a dream. The 23rd verse through the 24th. Let us read.
And it came to pass, when Joseph was come into his brethren, and they stripped Joseph out of his coat of many colors that was on him. And they took him and cast him into a pit. And the pit was empty. There was no water in it.
They cast him into a pit, and there was no water in it. Thank God for the readers, hearers, and doers of his word. You may have your seats this morning. Just for a short while, I want to label this morning's text, "The favor wasn't in my coat."
All right? Yeah.
The favor wasn't in my coat.
Glory.
A poem by William Ernest Henley this morning titled Invictus. It reads, "Out of the night that covers me, black as the pit from pole to pole, I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. In the fell clutch of circumstance, I have not winced nor cried aloud, though the bludgeonings of change shall find me and find me unafraid. It matters not how straight the gate, how charged the punishment, the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul." You see, in fact, these words would be found on the lips of a young man by the name of Nelson Mandela. You see, many of us, we know Nelson Mandela to be the former president of South Africa, the winner of the Nobel Peace Prize, the winner of the W.E.B. Du Bois International Award, and also labeled as one of Times Magazine's 100 most influential people. You see, but before any of that came to pass, young Nelson Mandela found himself in a jail cell for 27 years. You see, and while being in that jail cell, this poem Invictus kept him, and it reminded him that though I may be in this situation, this is not my final destination. You see, I stopped by to tell somebody at New Beginnings International Church this morning that where you are is not your final destination. You see, you may not have the finances you need this morning, but that is not your final destination. You may be sick in your body, but that is not your final destination. You see, you might be on a job that you feel is a dead-end job, but that is not your final destination. You see, but we must understand and hold fast that we have a God that sits on the right-hand side of the Father that is making intercessions for us. So no matter what we're going through, no matter what trial and tribulation we may be facing, our God is concerned about us. You see, young Nelson Mandela, he dreamed a dream. You see, his dream was that his nation would be free of apartheid. And because he dreamed a dream, he found himself becoming a radical, deciding that he would not go peaceful, but he would be violent until things began to his country. And see, and while things would not change, he found himself in the midst of a jail cell. You see, I remember 2 other young men that found themselves in a jail cell, but they prayed late in the midnight hour. You see, and I want to tell somebody this morning that you may have been in the prisons of life for 27 months, but that's not the end of your story. Because all you got to do is develop a praise down on the inside of you. And I guarantee that praise is going to set you free. You got to begin to develop a praise in your mind, a praise in your heart, and let the praise come out of your lips and say, God, I might be down in the midst of the jail cell, but this is not my destination. God, because you promised me that I'll be the head and not the tail. God, you promised me that I'll be the lender and not the borrower. God, you promised me that I'll be above and not beneath. God, but I got to hold fast to your word. You see, this morning we find another young man by the name of Joseph who was favored by his father. You see, this young man, he was favored by his father Jacob, his father Israel, because he was a child of his old age. And because he was a child of his old age, he loved Jacob even more than all his other sons. You see, it's something like when it's something difficult when a parent loves one child more than he loved the other children. You see, some folks might try to say, nah, I love all my children equally the same. But there's one child that's just a child of your heart. There's one child that you just love them so much you can't do nothing but speak goodness about their name. But I want to tell some parent this morning that there's danger in loving that child too much. Because just like Joseph, he found his brothers hated him even the more. Not because he was the best looking, not because he was the strongest, only because his father loved him more than all the other children. And because he loved Joseph more than all the other children, he gave Joseph a coat of many colors. You see, for Christmas time, as parents, have you ever bought one child a few more gifts than the other children? And we say, well, it was because they did good all year long. But really and truly, we just had a love for them down on the inside of our heart. Pastor Scott, what are you trying to say this morning? The God that we serve got a love down on the inside of his heart for us. That's why we get more gifts than everybody else. That's why we get more blessings than everybody else. That's why people are always looking at us, talking about us, because our God that we serve loves us just that much. You see, Joseph, he found himself being a child of Jacob's old age. His father gave him a coat of many colors, and the text lets us know that his brothers hated him. You see, his brothers hated him. You see, his brothers hated him. The people that he grew up with hated him. The people that he thought should have been close to him hated him. Pastor Scott, what are you saying to me this morning? There's some folks that was raised up with you that hate you. They don't hate you. They don't hate you because you look so good. They hate you because of